part is the theme. All wonderful things. Pray and contemplate today. How many remember Burt Bacharach's composition, "What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now." Okay, it's not just for someone or few ones, it's for everyone. I kind of like the modern lyrics that go like this. "'Cause your love drives me crazy, it drives me crazy. And I think that maybe I never want control, and because you reach my very soul. Your love drives me crazy, it drives me crazy. You're just a part of me, and it's with you I'd rather be." I guess that's what Darlene's saying when she tells me, "You drive me crazy." Love is a huge topic, and conversations can go in many different directions. Today, we shift our outlook in the world and turn our eyes to the concrete example of the truly crazy kind of love. We're looking at the epistle, reading it today. And at verse 16, what a way to start out. "By this we know love, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers," or the brethren. It's a double emphasis here. In the original it says, "In this we know love, because for us he laid down his life for us." It's like an extra highlight put in there. It's all for you. No, life is not all about you. No, you're not quite as the center of the universe and the attention that you sometimes think you are, but God's love is that way. It's centered, intentionally. You know, one of the things in chaplaincy training is developing active listening skills. Most of you have probably either read a book or heard that or been part of a workshop, or just know that if you're going to listen to somebody, you really need to focus. And in fact, you might need to reiterate what they say. You might need to ask a question to make sure you understand them. That's the kind of focus that God's love has for each and every one of you. Paul says it this way: "While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us." John, in today's epistle, he kind of weaves his usual themes of truth, life, and love. This apostle, known as the Beloved, he relishes to point us to Jesus. He repeatedly says that the love of Jesus, his concrete actions, his kind of love, is our reference point, our measuring stick, our schoolmaster of charity, our answer to the question, what does love really look like? Our recent journey through Holy Week, most of us can still remember it. That journey through the week of Christ facing the cross. Maybe it hit you like a ton of bricks, like it did me at a certain point, even on Maundy Thursday. And then Good Friday. If you recognize, as you should have, that we put Jesus on the cross, you did a number on it. You see, we get defensive about justifying our own actions, our less than loving reactions. We deflect blame if somebody else points them out. We know better, and yet we may hurl insults, whether it be with our fingers or our tongues. We're directed to give a hand up, and yet at times we work hard at ignoring a need that is right in front of our face. Do we go on seeking to willfully be distracted by our own comfortable plans, our own maybe foolish daydreams even? Those are issues of gross sin, though we do not want to think of it that way. And those gross sins and many others put Jesus Christ on the cross. And what was love's part? He gave his life on the cross willingly. As the scriptures readings today point out repeatedly, he gave himself for you and for me. So maybe seeing the torturous path of Holy Week hit you also on the soft spot of your heart. You know, that place where you yearn to be loved and treasured. How grand is the gospel. Because if your heart has been awakened and you believe in Jesus as your Savior, you have received a vision of what you yearn for. The gospel is the overcoming realization that God has taken care of your need for relationship, and that he loves you with the exact kind of love you just kind of dream about. Truly, truly, Jesus plus love equals your redemption. Or as Billy Graham's grandson, Vitkin, says, Jesus plus nothing equals everything. Verses 16 and 17, by this we know love, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. But if anyone has the world's goods and seeks his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? The word pictures in the Koine Greek make the statement come alive. An ekotan neo to kosmo, you've heard cosmo. Whoever has the mundane material looks upon a brother, and it uses the word adelphon, which means someone that you are in relationship with. Not necessarily your by blood brother. Someone you are in relationship with and know well. It's implied. If you see your brother with empty hands and stomach, and do not feel your own stomach turn with empathy, but rather shut your heart's door. The Greek verb, klese, is a tense, an aorist, which for the hearer of that day, that when that was their language, they pictured something in their minds because it was a word picture. And the word picture is somebody who slams the door shut. It's not just, well, I think I'll close my heart. Or struggles over the decision. Quite dramatic. One is empty of food, the other is empty of charity. Paul can identify with this work of the food pantry. How exciting it really is when we think about how God uses you and me. Sometimes we don't even realize how we're being used by God's love. But it's exciting. I see it in your response to your pastor. I see it in the way you've been so generous with my family. I see it in the way you respond to the needs of the church. How many got excited about bringing things for the Haiti trip. And that's exciting. You see, the Lord's going to continue to do that. He's going to keep stretching your heart until your heart includes in your agenda the whole world that he died for. We look to the past, we see the sacrifice of Christ. We look to the future, what dying for one another may we recognize? Could this mean that we don't brutally hang on to our own opinions or stubborn desires? Could we be advocates for one another a little more intentionally? Could this mean going the extra mile for that difficult person that's not really so easy to love? Or will you be on that next AT mission trip? I love verse 18. Little children. Little children. Let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and truth. Not only does he say little children because he's now a bit older. No, he's the apostle who lived the longest. He definitely lived at least into his 90s. And he has a lot of people that he could say little children. But it's also a spiritual father to child. And he also has in mind God's love that regenerates us and makes us God's children. And he says, little children. The original word is teknon. The same the same term that is employed when Jesus says, let no one be a barrier to those little ones who believe in me. Teknon. It refers to suckling babies and toddlers. It's not just talking about a 10-year-old. Little ones. My little children. The love we are given and called to and moved to is not that of a conniving, well, maybe something. But it's not the one that moves us from the inside out. It's not insincere or lazy daydreaming or trying to build up our own ego. When the love he's put in our hearts as his children moves us, it's not just knowledge-driven or skill-driven or trying to prove ourselves or earning salvation-driven. It's trust-driven. It's an overflow of recognizing what our foundation is, who our foundation is, who brought us into this love experience. Trust-driven motivation. Verses 19 through 22. Kind of a fisherman's tangled up Greek grammar, they say. I don't know enough about the grammar really to give you that opinion. But it says, by this we shall know that we are of the truth and reassure our heart before him. For whenever our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart. He knows everything. Beloved, if our heart does not condemn us, we have confidence with God. And whatever we ask and receive from him because we keep his commandments and do what pleases. What an interesting group of concepts. You see, here again, he brings us into the reality that even when we do what's pleasing to God, it starts in the love that he's placed in our hearts. So grace will show you how he is actively seeking your obedience. Grace will show you how he is working in your life. But even though he's working in your life, you should not use your own conscience or your record to prove that you're a child of God. No. That's not the issue. You still must look to God. You still must look to Christ. You must listen to his Spirit. Because God is the true judge. And who knows all things is the source of your life and your relationship to him. Sometimes this passage is preached like a severe warning. But all the biblical scholars, Cranfield, Hodge, Lenski, Luther, Green, they all agree that the syntax in the grammar, it's really much more appropriate to see it as a word of comfort. Whether or not you can judge yourself to be a true believer, the true judge knows you as his baptized child, and he gave you faith. And so he defends you against the accuser of the brethren. His heart is so much bigger than yours. Remember, he is greater than your own fickle heart. And we just can't help but say, thanks be to God. Another unusual expression, verses 23 and 24. And this is his commandment, that we believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another, just as he has commanded us. Whoever keeps his commandments abides in God, and God in him. And by this we know that he abides in us by the Spirit whom he has given us. Again, he doesn't give us the commandments as proof that we abide in him, but we keep his commandments because he abides in us. The proof is in that the Spirit lives in us and abides in us and is at work at us, moving us to love. Luther points out that trusting in Jesus and loving with sincerity are brought together under one commandment. For the one leads to the other. Listen closely. The truth of the object of our faith moves the will of our faith to action. In other words, the will of God includes our heart to trust in Him and our walk to follow Him. Sometimes we hear preachers present law and gospel in a confusing way. The gospel is kind of, you must believe, instead of the Lord calls you Himself. Believe on Him. Or the law is viewed as proclaimed as gospel. Honor your father and your mother, and you just might get to heaven. The Lord, who is the giver of life, while you were dead in your trespasses and sin, came to you, shed His love in you, claimed you as His child, as we talked about last week. He granted you faith so that you might walk in His way. So as a believer, saved by grace, looking to the object of your faith, you then are directed by the Spirit of God in a path of works that you were appointed to do. Sounds a little bit like Ephesians, doesn't it? So it's true, sometimes the high expectations, the high standard, the holiness, the real love of God drives us crazy. We can't quite get there. But the fact that we want to is part of the witness. The Spirit puts in us a yearning to love like Jesus. And then when we experience the other side of the coin, when we experience His mercy, His forgiveness, the reassurance of His love for us as His children, that drives us a little crazy. Like, wow. How amazing that He has sent His Spirit to abide in us. The original means to be at home with us. It kind of pictures like He's with us and we're sitting on the couch in the living room. We're laying back in the lanai, and He's just hanging out with us. He loves it to be with us. The Spirit whom God gave you loves to hang out with you, and so He continually abides with you. So I've got to ask you, how at home is Jesus in your heart? Or how at home are you, knowing that He's hanging out with you? Okay, sometimes it will move your conscience to recognize God's presence. Other times it will bring a wonderful comfort that will drive you crazy. But know it's your Heavenly Father's good pleasure. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's the only thing that will drive you crazy. And all God's people say, amen.